Welcome to LinkedUp, Breaking Boundaries in Education, a podcast that focuses on what is happening in education today, connecting everyone to the movers and shakers that are breaking boundaries in the education arena.
Welcome to LinkedUp, Breaking Boundaries in Education. So Jerry and I were at the South by Southwest EDU conference a couple months ago, and we got to go cowboy boot shopping with Guy Kawasaki.
Yeah, to do that. That was a fun event. We were so happy to meet Guy. We had listened to his keynote with Canva.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. And afterwards, we just, we were up there wanting autographs. And we were also talking about his new book that has just come out. And so he knew one of our frequent guests, Erica Sandstrom, the green screen gal.
Yeah.
He just asked us all to go along and do some boots shopping with him. Well, we were in Boston, cowboy boots, of course. And we had a great time. So welcome, Guy. We are happy to have you here with us today.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Are you going to go to next year's South by Southwest?
I don't think we can.
Why?
We have a conflicting conference.
Where?
Oh, it's our own. We do work with a tech company, ClassLink, and we have our own in-person conference. So, yeah.
Where will it be?
Yeah, maybe you can come to both. It's in Dallas, Texas. So it's actually not far from Boston. So you have a point. We actually might be able to do both. Let's see.
Was a good point. Yes.
Hear about this book. Remarkable. I mean,
yes.
How did you come up with the idea? How did you work it? It's unique. I want to hear about it.
Well, I have this podcast called Remarkable People, in which I interview remarkable people like Jane Goodall, Neil deGrasse Tyson, Stacey Abrams, Steve Wozniak, Angela Duckworth, Carol Dweck. And now it's 5 years old, so there's 250 episodes, and that's 250 hours and 5,000 pages of transcripts, which nobody's going to read or listen to. So we decided to kind of condense it into a small book that people can use the inspiration and information from all these remarkable people.
When you pull all this information together, were there some themes that came out of that?
Oh, absolutely. So the book is divided into 3 parts, which is growth, grit, and grace. And so that's the central organizing themes, because we notice those characteristics over and over again in remarkable people. They have a growth mindset. They work very hard. And towards the end of their career, they start believing that it's time to pay back and not just get, but give.
Can you give us some key strategies that you want readers to come away with as they're reading through these 3 areas of growth, grit, and grace?
Well, I think the starting point obviously is growth. And this means that you have to have a mindset that you believe you can learn new things, you can try new things. And I'm not saying that it's a guaranteed success whenever you do grow, but the opposite is, a fixed mindset where you believe that you are what you are. You can be no more. And you also believe you can be no less. And I think that is a very destructive attitude. So let's start with the growth mindset from Carol Dweck.
Yes. Yes. So what are some of the characteristics people have when they have a growth mindset? Because it's not always easy to keep that mindset. Right?
It's very hard to keep that mindset. I think the characteristic is that you have embraced yourself for vulnerability, that when you decide to learn something new, you need to understand that instant success is highly unlikely. So you need to brace for this setbacks and failures, because it's going to come. But, if you don't try anything that you might fail at, you will never grow.
Exactly. Right. You're going to fail at everything you don't try, right? And you need to have that growth mindset to get you through it. You yourself are a remarkable person. Where do you fall in some of these different philosophies that you were able to shine a light on in your book?
when you say where do I fall, you mean where do I fail, or what
Ah,
part of the spectrum?
right. Yes.
I have somewhat of an extreme growth mindset. I took up ice hockey at 44. I took up surfing at 60. I took up podcasting at 62. I truly do have a growth mindset. And the flip side of a growth mindset is a grit mindset. And the grit mindset means that you persevere in spite of failure and setbacks. And I gotta tell you, I'm a gritty person. So that's the key to my success is my grit.
Love it.
Can you tell us about a time when you've had to have a lot of grit because things didn't go the way you
Well,
planned or
everything I try required grit. Ice
yes?
hockey, surfing, podcasting, writing. I mean, none of these things come easy. And when you read about or you hear about these people who are quote unquote instant success,
Yeah.
if you were to go and look at what they did to become instantly successful, you would see that there's no such thing as an instant success.
And I think people believe in that today with social media. They think I'm gonna be an overnight sensation on social
yeah.
media.
No, I mean, in social media, maybe you can do it because if you do something really bizarre or, I don't know, you kind of, let's just say lower your moral standards. Maybe you can be an instant success, but
Right.
if you really want to, if you really truly want to be successful, it's not going to be easy. I mean, if you look at women's basketball right now, right, everybody's going crazy about Caitlin Clark and how she is
Yes.
this instant success in the WNBA. But she's probably been shooting baskets since she was
Right.
2, right? And now she's,
Right.
I don't know, 21 or 22 or whatever, instant success. But she's not proven in the WNBA yet. But I mean, she didn't get to where she is because she took up basketball last year.
Right.
Right.
Right. She had
Exactly.
that growth mindset. She had that grit, right? So that absolutely, I'm sure with any any successful athlete for sure. That's definitely comes into play. And you mentioned that with some of your athletic endeavors that you've taken on.
What are the messages you tell yourself to get back up and to keep going?
Honestly, I don't do a lot of talking to myself.
You
Um,
don't?
I just decide that, listen, it it happens because I just fall in love. I fall in love with surfing. I fall in love with hockey. I fall in love with podcasting. And it's not like I gotta convince myself to keep going. It's just in my DNA. I mean, once I fall in love with something, I just keep going.
Yes. Well, you've talked about growth and grit. Tell us about grace.
Yeah. So grace is this. I think it's part of maturing that at some point you realize, yes, you had growth. Yes, you had grit. So,
Yes.
you quote unquote deserve your success. But then if you really look at it, there was some teacher, some coach, some mentor, some boss that did something extra for you, that gave you permission or helped you, or so you're not where you are just because you're such a remarkable person. You are what you are because lots of people helped you on the way. And when you come to that realization, you figure out that, maybe I need to pay back the karmic scoreboard, that people helped me become remarkable. So now it's my turn to help other people become
Mm.
remarkable.
Yes, we were having this conversation on Friday. I was talking to a professor from the University of Kansas, and
Hmm.
she said that she works in doctoral programs, and she was speaking with her young candidates and asked who their mentors were. And they said that they didn't have mentors, that they just looked for friends along the way. And she was wondering, how do we help people to, one, find the value of mentorship, and two, find mentors?
The starting point is the humility to realize that you cannot do it all by yourself, right? I mean,
Exactly.
if you truly believe you're just this God's gift to mankind and you can do everything yourself and you're a natural, gifted, intellectual athlete, and if you got that attitude, you're probably not going to look for a mentor, right? Let's face it. So
Sure.
I think it's the humility that, This is challenging and I need help. That's I have probably 80% of the battle. And I actually in the book I have a whole section on how to find and get a mentor, but there's some counterintuitive things like people are afraid to ask busy people. And I would say that you should not hesitate to ask busy people because, well, first of all, if they're busy, it's an indication that they are good. Because if you wanted to get mentored by someone who had nothing else to do, that might be a warning signal.
Right. And
And
busy
then I think
people.
you just have to ask, and you never know unless you ask. And another piece of advice is you have to make sure that you're not just trying to get a mentor for window dressing. That mentor has to be aligned with what you need. So, if you want a mentor in, I don't know, writing software, that doesn't mean you go ask the CEO of a publicly traded consumer packaged goods company to be your mentor. I mean, you find someone who's a professor of engineering, or you find someone who's a VP of engineering. You don't go and look for a CMO to be your mentor. So, because if I were a CMO and somebody asked me, "Oh, I want to be a programmer, will you be my mentor?" My answer would be no. I don't know what can I tell you about that.
Exactly. And it seems like in my personal experience, I've had mentors, many different mentors for the different things that I'm needing help with. I don't have just one mentor that helps me along the way. And
Yeah.
yeah, and it changes as you move along in your career as well.
At some point, you come to the realization it's time to be the mentor, not the mentee.
Right,
Absolutely.
right,
Yes.
absolutely. And I do love your advice of making sure that people don't hesitate, don't have that fear of asking, and make sure that you put yourself out there to, when you have questions, ask them and really seek out that mentor that you might have. You have 200 something remarkable people that you've interviewed. One of the podcast episodes of yours that I listened to was a flip. You had someone interview you, which I thought was really fun. And we got to hear a lot about your childhood, growing up in Hawaii. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and how
Sure.
maybe you draw on that for some of your success?
Yeah. So I was born and raised in Honolulu, Hawaii. I come from a lower middle class family. I'm definitely not from wealth or royalty or anything like that. I wasn't raised in Mar-a-Lago, and a sixth grade teacher convinced my parents to take me out of the public school system of Hawaii and put me in a college prep system because she saw my potential. And fortunately for me, my parents listened to her, and fortunately, they were willing to make the sacrifice. So I got into this college prep school, which got me into Stanford, and the rest is history. That's where I met the guy who hired me at Apple. So I am living testimony to, the impact that one sixth grade teacher can have, and
Yes.
the impact that parents who appreciate the value of education can have. And I'm living testimony to the the goodness of getting a college degree if you can.
Yes. Absolutely. I know you were an evangelist for Apple. And I'm wondering, how do you see technology fitting into this idea of being remarkable? Does it have a place in all of this
Oh,
for us?
absolutely, it has a place. I mean, I think technology is a great it's a great leveler that uh, what- I bet there were periods of time where only the very rich people could get access to information. And today, anybody with internet access or even access to a library, you can basically access all the knowledge of the human race. And, there were times where you had to be rich to use artificial intelligence. Well, you can go to a library, go into Chat GPT, and you are, standing toe to toe with anybody who's worth millions of dollars. So I love technology for that. And it's enabled people to be writers like me. And I work for this company called Canva. So now you can create beautiful graphics. You don't need to be a, trained artist with high-end computer equipment and stuff. It's a whole new world.
Yeah. And do you use Chat GPT or AI?
I think they are humongous deals, maybe bigger than the Industrial Revolution and the internet itself. You will not find someone more supportive of AI than I am. I think it's made me a 2 or 3 times better writer, for
You
one
said
thing.
that. You said
Yeah.
that at South by Southwest EDU in the Canva session. And I think
Yes.
that's so intriguing. Absolutely.
And how has it made you better?
Well, I use it in very practical ways. So I use it as a research assistant. So this research assistant is available 24/7 with instant answers for free. Well, $20 a month, so that's free.
Yes.
So for free. And this research assistant is completely patient. It never gets pissed off or disappointed in you. I mean, am I not describing the most awesome research assistant?
That's right.
I also use it to check my writing. I use it to help me rewrite stuff. And I am such a believer in AI that I created Kawasaki GPT. So you can go to kawasakigpt.com, and what the data set there is, it's all my writings, all my videos, my speeches, my blog posts, and my interviews of remarkable people. So you could go there and ask a question like you're asking Jane Goodall or Stacey Abrams or Angela Duckworth. Or if you went to Kawasaki GPT and said, how do I become gritty? You would get an answer that would include my thoughts as well as Angela Duckworth's. So
That's
I don't. It's a very, very useful tool. In fact, I hesitate to tell you this, but when people ask me to write forewords or blurbs or write, contributions to journals and stuff, guess what I do? I go to my own Chat GPT and I ask myself the question for the first draft.
Phenomenal. That is amazing.
you telling us we can go there and use that as well?
Absolutely, it's wide open. You can.
Wow.
It's like you can have a personal relationship with Guy Kawasaki at Kawasaki GPT 24/7 for free.
We didn't even schedule today with you. We could have just gone there.
You could have.
Maybe
If you
we
had
should-
gone there and interviewed me, you'd probably get better answers than what you're getting.
Does it speak? This is an idea for a future podcast.
Right.
It does not speak, but
Doesn't speak.
no,
Is that
but
gonna be
you know what?
going
I
out?
mean, that's a trivial step. The hard part is getting the intelligence
right.
in there, not
In there, yes.
something to read the answer to you.
Yeah.
So, Guy, here's one thing I'm going to go there and ask, because I have heard, and you tell me if you found this too, that, and I read in your book as well, that every successful person has a really good morning routine.
Hmm.
You eat peanut butter toast with banana.
I do. I absolutely do. On the other
Yes.
hand, Julia Cameron, who has been I think 3-time guest for me. Julia Cameron has this thing you wake up every morning and you do a daily journal. You write it out longhand before you do anything else. Okay.
Yes.
So that's a little more, shall I say, intellectual than peanut butter banana toast. That's my morning
I
routine.
think I can get in at the peanut butter banana toast level.
Yeah.
You got to start somewhere.
Do you do anything after the peanut butter toast for your morning routine,
Well,
or is that?
In one sense, I am a bad example for this particular question because I know what you should do, which is write this daily journal or do the most important things, which is, I don't know, do your research for your podcast, record the intros for your podcast, or write, 3 or 4 pages of your next book. But I got to tell you, I am the worst. I get up around 4:30 in the morning and I start doom scrolling. I start reading, all the things about what happened in court and, what's the latest poll said, all that. And then I check my email and then I check social media and then I have my peanut butter sandwich and then, then I go surfing and then I come back and work. So I am not a good example of discipline.
But it works for you.
Yeah.
Well, the fact that I have 16 books to my name, I could
Yes.
make the case that is despite my lousy habits, not because of good habits.
Oh, I don't know. I kind of like your habits. I think they sound wonderful, actually.
That's
Yes.
great. That's great.
Well, if I want to start thinking remarkably about my day, where would you tell me to start?
Well, I think that that's a nice theoretical question, but what makes people remarkable is that they have made a difference and they've made the world a better place. So
Mhm.
rather than asking yourself, how can I be remarkable? You should ask yourself, how can I make a difference? And it could
Yes.
be, you don't have to be Steve Jobs or Jane Goodall, you don't have to like save the human race. But if you mentored one person, if you helped one class or one team, or you cleaned up one stream, or you even just turn your own life around. I mean, if you're making a difference, at some point, people will have no choice but to think you are remarkable. So,
That's
for
true.
example, I don't think that Steve Jobs or Jane Goodall ever woke up one day and said, today I'm going to start repositioning myself as remarkable. Steve
Right.
Jobs was, he was busy. Apple One, Apple Two, Macintosh, iPhone, iPod, iPad, Apple Store, Genius Bar, App Store. He wasn't thinking, how can I convince the world that I'm remarkable?
Yeah. Did you get to work with him when you were at Apple?
I did, yes.
Ah, what's one takeaway you can tell us about him? Can you tell us anything about him that
Well, I mean,
stuck
everything you've heard or read or seen about Steve Jobs has an element of truth to it. I mean, he was a scary guy. He very intimidating. He ruled by just fear. And I'm telling you, fear works as a motivation. I'm living proof of that. But I cherish the days that I was able to work with and for him, because I would not be where I am were it not for Steve Jobs. There's no doubt in my mind.
Mhm.
And he's truly a remarkable person, and he's changed the world. He made the world a better place by
Sure did.
democratizing computing.
Yes, and focusing on education really with the devices,
Yeah.
he had a big
Apple One and Apple Two. I mean, Apple Two in particular. Yes.
I mean,
yes.
really good examples of growth and grit and grace and giving back and being remarkable in that way.
I wouldn't say that Steve Jobs is synonymous with grace,
Yeah.
but I think the most remarkable person alive today is Jane Goodall,
Mm,
without a doubt. Without a
yeah.
doubt, she's the most remarkable person. And there are few honors greater in the world than Jane Goodall writing the foreword for your book, and she wrote the foreword for my book.
Oh.
That's amazing.
What is it that
Amazing.
in your mind makes her so remarkable to stand above all others?
Well, I mean, for one thing, just the level of her grit is astounding. So she's 90 years old and she travels 300
Mhm.
days a year. And I don't mean she's
Wow.
traveling 300 days a year, sitting around sipping Mai Tais in Bali. I mean, she's out there trying to change the world and make the
Wow.
world a better place. And that alone makes her remarkable.
Absolutely. Yes. Well, as we start to look to the future, and you're someone that I always think is so forward thinking, what are some of the trends and things you foresee that we're going to be engaged in as we look to the future?
Well, I think by far the greatest factor in the near term is artificial intelligence, how
Mhm.
it can change so many things in so many ways about how we live. And I don't want to go, down into this rat hole, but I'm telling you that depending what happens in the presidential election in November of this year, it could be a very different United States on November 6th.
Yes,
Oh, I don't know what's gonna happen.
I would agree.
Yeah.
And we hope that everyone's paying close attention
Yeah.
to what's going on so that we vote the way we feel is going to be best for our
Well,
country and our future.
I think
Time.
okay, let's not make a specific endorsement, but at the very least, you should vote. Everybody listening to this should vote because,
Right.
at some point in particular, Gen Z, you cannot blame the boomers anymore. Yes, the boomers screwed it up. Yes, the boomers handing you a less than perfect world. But guess what? It's your world now. And, you have to take responsibility. So it's kind of
Yes.
up to you. You cannot blame your parents anymore.
Yes. Yeah. We all need to stand together to make it better.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's going to take some grit, isn't it?
Gonna take some grit. And we need to have some grace in there too. Yeah.
No kidding. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And that growth mindset to change things for the future, not just look at the past and change those things, but what can we do to make
Yeah,
the future even better?
In my humble opinion, the past is vastly overrated. I mean, people seem to have this idea of nostalgia that things were much better back then. I think things were much worse back then. There was much greater pollution. There was much greater racial prejudice. I mean, it was like in the late 1950s that you could even have an interracial marriage, right? I mean, like, and you know what? I mean, that's the good old days. Like, what are you talking about?
Right.
Like, women couldn't vote. Oh, yeah, that was the good old days. Let's go back to that.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we really need to put that in perspective. I would agree.
True.
Yeah.
True.
Yes.
Sure.
So, Guy, who is your book for?
Anybody with $20.
Anybody with $20.
How's that?
Yes.
It's written for Gen Z. Now, how Gen Z gets it, it may be that parents and teachers and coaches and grandparents, they buy it for them. And listen, between you and me, the attitude could be, listen, you don't listen to me. So I've been telling you all this stuff and you don't listen to me. So read this book. This guy used to be the chief evangelist of Apple. And, you use an iPhone and a Macintosh. He's chief evangelist of Canva. You use Canva to make all your graphics. So don't listen to me. Just read this book. Listen to him.
That's right.
I love
I
that.
mean, too. And I love that you wrote it for Gen Z. So now that you said that, I'm going to get a couple more books for my kids.
Right.
Okay.
And see
Right.
if
It
they
worked.
listen for you. Yes.
So
Oh
great.
my goodness. It has been a pleasure to have you on
Oh, my
today.
pleasure. You know what? And I'll tell you, if it works out, we'll do South by Southwest and your conference next year, right?
All right.
I'll just do
All
my
right.
tour of Texas, assuming I'm not banned
Let's
from
go.
Texas.
That's right.
Jamie, let's look into seeing
right.
how we can get Guy over to see us.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Absolutely.
The part of South by Southwest that I go to is not usually the EDU part. Usually I go to the second part. So I don't know what part you overlap with.
Jamie and I don't get to go to the second part. We
Oh,
work
you should
together.
definitely spend a few more days and go to the second part because the second part is, I think, even more diverse than the first part. The first part always has to have some kind of link to EDU, right? Whereas the second part, just like, it can be about anything. And what I like about South by Southwest is that, generally speaking, there's not a lot of billionaires with their entourage walking around. Like, I mean, not that I get invited to these things, but, I don't go to these things in Sun Valley. And I've been invited a couple times, and I've gone to the World Economic Forum, which, before you're invited to speak at the World Economic Forum, you think, oh, it's such a huge deal, man. Someday I'll be invited. And then you go and then you look at it, you say, yeah, I guess so. I mean, it doesn't bother me that I am no longer invited to the World Economic Forum. Let me put it to you that way. I'd much rather be in Texas buying boots.
Yes, sure. Yeah, you've got a great perspective there. That's pretty cool. But yeah. Well, where the fun is, I guess, too, and what's to come.
The barbecue in Davos, Switzerland sucks. Let me just tell you.
I bet it does.
I'd imagine so.
Are you a barbecue fan?
I am a big barbecue fan. Don't tell Jane Goodall, though.
See me in Kansas. We have great barbecue in Kansas.
Oh, you do? Yeah.
Oh, yes. Kansas
Okay.
barbecue. Yes.
All righty.
Check it out.
All
Check it out.
right.
Well, thank you, ladies. It's been a
So much.
pleasure, and I'll see you next year.
Thank you for listening. And if you would like to stay linked up, be sure to follow us on Apple and Spotify and subscribe to us on YouTube.